My name is Rosemary Jacob. My friends call me Rosie, and you can too. I grew up here in Manhattan in Yorkville. I came from a family of 10. We lived in a 4-room apartment, 4 rooms full of 10 people, and lots of heartaches. It was, as they say today, a dysfunctional family. My father was abusive to everyone, but my mother took the blunt of violence. We basically lived out on the street as much as we could, so I knew hunger as a child and what it was like to go to bed with no food in your stomach. I knew how that felt physically and psychologically. I went to PS 102 up on 93rd Street and First Avenue. Thank God for the free lunches in school. The lunch ladies saw me, this scraggly, skinny kid in ragged clothes. So they would always put a little bag aside and say, "This is for you. Eat it before you go home." They brought in used clothes for me and would say, "This would look pretty on you." They were very nice people. When we all reached a certain age, we all latched on to the first thing to come along to get out of the house. I found what I thought was a nice boy and got married. I stopped school at 17 and went to work. But I stopped working once I had children, 2 beautiful daughters. Over time, my husband became extremely violent. I thought that this was a way life was supposed to be, but I thought it was okay. At least he didn't lay a hand on the children. Eventually, that changed. It got so bad that at one point, he killed the family dog with a knife. He was on the verge of killing me and my kids. He was brought to Bellevue Hospital and was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic psychotic at a dangerously high level. As part of my planning to get away from him, I took my GED and applied for every city and federal job I could think of. The sanitation department, the postal service, hoping something, anything would come along so I could get away. But the day my husband punched our 7-year-old daughter, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I called the police. They already knew me as the lady with the 2 black eyes and the stitches. I asked them to pick him up and hold him for 5 or 6 hours so I could have a chance to get away, just to give me a head start, and they did. I rented a car, took my kids straight out of school, took a shopping bag of clothes for each of us, no contact with anybody. I was riding around dizzy with 2 little girls in the back seat. We stayed at flimsy hotels, not knowing what to do or who to ask for help. I had no education, no tools to do anything. The money started running out, so we lived in the car. When we couldn't afford the car, we slept in hallways. With the help of some friends, I was able to scrape together enough money to pay the security deposit on an apartment. We slept on the floor. We used our dirty clothes as pillows. My neighbor at the grocery store, the deli, the food mart, and the drugstore saw my girls and me struggling and helped me in so many ways. The guy at the market gave me a bag and said, "Go shopping." The lady at the deli would give me food that didn't get sold that day. They said I could pay them back whenever I had the money. Every day, I would pray to God, "Show me the way. I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do 2 jobs, anything." Every day, I would circle the paper on the jobs that I would go the next day. I knew I didn't qualify for most of the jobs. Finally, it came down to me having $5 in my pocket. The rent was due. The landlord was banging on my door. He wanted me to leave. I wasn't getting any replies from any job applications. So I stopped my mail carrier on the street and I told him I had taken the test for the post office 3 years ago and put myself on a deferred list. I had sent a change of address to the post office, but I hadn't heard back. He asked me my name. When I told him, he said, "That's funny. I have a piece of mail for you, and it looks important." But I didn't know where you lived. You see, I couldn't put my name on the mailbox because I didn't want my husband to find out. But that meant the letter carrier couldn't find me either. The letter was from the postal system. I opened it up, and it said, "Report to work the very next day." We started building a new life from there. I worked at the post office for 32 years, carrying 50-pound sacks of mail on my back, up and down the streets of Forest Hills and Kew Gardens. I was determined to make a better life for my children. They got dressed by themselves in the morning for school. I used to go to work 4 o'clock in the morning so I can get some overtime to buy my children the things they needed. My kids were both accepted to Queens College. They would be the first in the family to go to college, but I didn't know how I could afford the tuition, the books, and all the other expenses that go along with being a college student. But there was a man on my postal route, a very nice man, and he used to ask me about my girls. When I told him my daughters wanted to go to college, he said, "They must. It's important." And once a week, he gave me a check for $100 for the girls' college fund, just like that. Can you imagine? Life was hard, but we were able to make it work until 4 years ago when I woke up and couldn't use my legs. I called 911. The ambulance took me to the hospital. I had a dissection of the aorta. I pulled through, but I could no longer work. I was a few years short of retiring. I knew I was in trouble. Raising 2 children, I couldn't save money. I worked all my life. Now I find myself without enough money to live. My biggest expense was my medication. I need 13 pills a day just to live, to keep the aneurysm from coming back. Federal workers fall under a very confusing benefit system that's completely separated from Social Security, so I couldn't get disability or Medicaid. With my career cut short by the illness, my prorated pension was tiny, but I still made $22 too much to qualify for food stamps. So at bill paying time, I had to make the decision, do I eat or do I buy medicine? I had my pride. I knew hunger as a child. But I never expected that as an adult, after working for decades, doing honorable work, I find myself in this position. So I swallowed my pride, and I called the city hotline to ask if there was some place where I can get some food. They told me that there was a great program right here, right where I live, called the River Fund. When I first went, I was a little ashamed. When I saw all those people standing in line to get food, mother, children, seniors, I thought, maybe they need this food more than I do. And I was getting ready to turn around and leave. And then this funny little man came along, a man named Swami. You met him, isn't he a doll? He opened his arms and treated like he knew me all my life. I felt such warmth and love from Swami and everyone at the River Fund. People I never met in my life. They filled up my wagon with food. I got rice, beans, fresh fruit, and veggies, and even orange juice. And when I looked around the room, the kids were being given backpacks, pencils for school. There's an area that gives clothes away. It touched my heart. I walked away feeling so much better. And then the people at the River Fund helped me get the assistance I so desperately needed, but didn't know was available. For example, I learned I was entitled to have my rent frozen so that I wouldn't see an increase every 2 years. They were also trying to find less expensive health care for me and to get me help paying for my prescriptions. I asked Swami if all the food he was giving out was donated, and he said yes, and told me there were people at a place called Robin Hood who made it all possible. And so I just knew I had to come here this morning and thank you, because I'm not sure you know exactly what you've done. You may think that you donated some money to a little program in Queens, but what you have done for people like me is give hope and let people like me know that someone cares, that someone is there for them, and that is more nourishing than rice, vegetables, or even orange juice. I stand here before you on unsteady legs to tell you, I am here today because of all the kind people I have met in my life. Those wonderful school lunch ladies, the man at the deli, the kind man who helped me with my daughter's college funds, and Swami. I need and want to thank all of you personally. So to all those policemen who gave me a running start so I can escape from my abusive husband. To the people at the River Fund and Robin Hood who gave me the help I desperately needed to give me and my daughters a new start and a brighter future. I can say from experience that my world would be a much darker place without you. Thank you.